My name is Travis. I am part of the recruitment team at Kubrick. So first, I'm just going to do just brief introductions with my lovely consultants that have joined with me. What did you study at university, and what made you decide that you want to have a career in data and AI?
I studied mechanical engineering with a placement year and I graduated summer of 2024. What made me choose to go into data? I didn't love my engineering degree. I didn't hate it. I always knew that STEM, science and maths was where I was going to find a career. But having done my placement year, I felt like I wanted to explore different types of opportunities before pigeonholing myself into being an engineer. And getting a job is hard. And so when I was applying for jobs, I applied for loads of different types of jobs, and the opportunity to apply for Kubrick came about. And it felt like a really good opportunity to learn loads because you do 15 weeks of training in which you're paid to train. And so it meant the opportunity to do something I'd never done before and be paid to do it and learn loads, meet new people. And then again, have 2 years worth of working with loads of different types of clients and working in a really versatile environment is what I was really excited to do. And I've really enjoyed it so far, to be honest. To summarize, it's been a great opportunity to do something a bit different, to learn as much as you can. I think that's the best part about being postgrad, is that you just have to keep learning, and being in the data and AI world is constantly changing anyway. So it's more exciting to work like that.
Prior to coming to Kubrick, I didn't really have any training or experience within data. I had worked on some projects, obviously doing business and finance, that sort of stuff, working with data, but yeah, no proper real training. I had a sandwich year placement and I was doing a admin assistant role for an organisation, and I just felt like there was something more that I could learn instead of coming into a company an entry role and having to take quite a while to work your way up and being limited to the amount of training and opportunities to learn going in at that entry role. So when I'd come across Kubrick and seen that you've crammed all of this training and all of these skills that are really valuable in the data world within 15 weeks, and then you come out the other side and you're really set up and equipped to go into a role and feel confident as well that you know what you're doing and you've got your next few years of your career laid out really clearly for you and you've got those goals to work towards. I think that was really attractive for me at the time, and I'm really glad that I did that, because I think if I was to have gone into even to an entry-level data role, I wouldn't have learned anywhere near as much as what I already have done with Kubrick in such a short amount of time. I'd really recommend it to people if it's something that you're considering, even if you're not sure. I think when I started, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. It's not something that I've learned before. But I think the way that training is set up is really supportive, and you've got a really great network of consultants around you. Everyone's in the same position as you and are really supportive, and I think everyone pulls together to help get you through training. And yeah, just would recommend it if it's something you're thinking about. I'll pass over to Florence.
At uni, I studied physical geography, and there was quite a heavy focus on data analysis within my degree, and then ended up doing a dissertation in AI models and machine learning, and that's where I really found my interest in the field, and Kubrick was the most sensible place for me to start because I had, apart from the very limited exposure to it during my degree, I had really no experience with coding, all of the specialized tech opportunities that Kubrick provides. So I applied, and I think what really made Kubrick stand out against some of the other competitors is the paid training. It really makes a difference. A lot of other competitors offer same kind of frameworks and training, but don't offer that paid opportunity. So that's what stood out for me in choosing Kubrick after making that decision to enter the data space.
So the next question I have is for Mary, since you went through training more recently. Training has changed drastically since Holly and Florence were in training, but I just wanted to get an understanding of what your experience was like in training for the full 15 weeks, and similarly your stream, and since then, have you learned any new things that maybe weren't taught in your stream?
Yeah, for sure. So I did data management, data governance. We started with SQL, 2 weeks on SQL, and then 2 weeks on Python in person every day. There was about 30 of us in our training cohort, a mix of, I would say, about 2/3 Brits, 1/3 American. After those initial 5 weeks, we went into more of the stakeholder management. We covered working in an agile way. And then the final 5 weeks was a project. We were split into 3 groups and we're basically given what would mimic a real life client or a real life scenario, and had to work through that in our teams of around 10. And it was really interesting because you feel like you learn stuff through training, but also it's a lot of information to take in over a 5-week period. It is quite intense, which is why being in person is really helpful, because you do have those people to lean on. But learning how to apply it in a real world client scenario is very different. At the end of that, we did a big presentation and submitted a report to the trainers. Following that, I decided that while I was on the bench, I would spend my 3-4 weeks doing some LinkedIn courses. I also did some extra work using Databricks just because I wanted to test my technical skills a bit more. It's all about constant learning. I'm still learning as we go. You are thrown into the deep end and you learn, but you learn a lot very quickly, and you would much rather have it that way than start in a regular data grad job and not learn as much. It's a very supportive environment. I really enjoyed the training, and again, I've made some great friends from working at Kubrick, so it's been a positive experience.
You do have the opportunity to learn while you're on the bench as well, just other areas that are of interest to you. So I do think Kubrick is a really great place to start your career because you personalize your development and then you'll also gain that experience. At the end of the 2 years, if you choose to join client full time, you'll have had 2 years worth of experience that you've personally tailored the way that you want, and it's just really good for your CV. Similarly, for Holly and Florence, training was a while ago for you too. I assume that you've learned loads since then. Was there anything that you were interested in learning about, or just like a new opportunity with clients that you became really interested in?
I think the training that you get at Kubrick, core skills that you need to go in and start a role. But I think once you're in those roles, your development will just skyrocket within your first year. If you'd have said to me some of the work I'm doing at the minute that I would have done last year, but I don't know how to do that, like you'd sort of panic a bit. But I think it just shows that the skills and everything that you learn from your training really help give you that confidence to pick up things as you go and just throw yourself into learning new things. I think if you just keep an open mind, you'll be surprised at how much you can learn and where your path can take you.
So we are pretty agnostic when it comes to backgrounds. It doesn't really matter what background you have. We have an expectation that people will have no exposure to any of this. Our understanding is that everyone that is starting on their first day of Kubrick will have zero knowledge of any coding language, anything data related. What we are looking for in applicants, it just falls along the lines of potential and the motivation to work in data. So you don't have to have any experience at all. We will train you up in everything to get you to a point where you're ready to work with clients. How often do we hire? So we are really ramping things up in 2026. We will be hiring every 5 weeks in 2026 up until at least October, December cohort, potentially more. So every 5 weeks, there will be a start date. So it's really about when you can start and when you feel comfortable starting. The specialization application phase, or is the decision made once you've been accepted? I tend to give people a bit of an option when they do apply. If you're interested in AI specifically, I can say you can wait until we have our scheduled AI cohort, or you can go ahead and start now and then start training up in AI in your spare time. You have access to so much information from Kubrick to really help you with your learning. And then again, things become quite different once training is over and you start to work with clients. You're constantly learning. Should you only apply if you're based in London or willing to relocate, or can you apply with the expectation of working remotely? Because most of our clients are based in London, we do recommend that consultants make the move down to London. The chances are you will be placed with a London-based client and need to go into the office. That is usually the recommendation for the training. First 5 weeks are on site, so we do expect you to be in the office every day. People typically sublet. I don't know if any of the consultants here have had to relocate down to London.
Well, I know there was quite a few people in our cohort. There was some from Glasgow, some from Liverpool Way that just, like you said, Travis, did a sublet for the training period. And then once everyone got their allocations for clients, they could make the decision whether they were going to permanently move to London, or in the event that they did get one outside of London, they would then relocate to that place. So yeah, I think if you've got the option to sublet during your training, it's a great option. But yeah, the majority of roles are London based. So yeah, something to consider.
And I think definitely don't work off the assumption that you'd have the opportunity to work fully remotely, because ultimately that's quite unlikely. And I think widely we're seeing a lot more companies request more days in office as well. There are just essentially fewer roles that are fully remote. The expectation is definitely that you'd be available for in-office work.
Perfect. Thank you both. We've got time for a few more questions before we start to wrap things up. I will try to get through these. If the expectation is no technical experience, does that mean if you have experience, it won't be considered? So your whole background will be considered. If you do have some experience, that's not necessarily a red flag. If you have too much experience, on the other hand, you might not receive much out of the training. We would recommend that those with a lot of experience, more than a year, potentially don't join us, just because we don't want them to be bored in the training. It is 15 weeks long. And if you're just sitting through information that you're very proficient in, we just don't think you're going to get much out of that experience. Any more questions, or should I begin to wrap things up a bit? Thank you all for joining us. I hope that I am seeing some applications come through. It was lovely to be able to just talk to you all about Kubrick. I hope that you've all learned some things about us.